Historic blizzards in the United States as a fierce winter storm bringing heavy snowfall hits the east coast. Now to the US, a fierce storm with heavy snowfall and hurricane-force winds is sweeping across the east coast of the United States. More than 5,000 flights have been cancelled and people have been told to stay at home. With more, here's our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes.
A blanket of snow covers Times Square in New York City. The streets largely deserted as most people hunker down at home. This has been a colossal storm, a bomb cyclone as it's known, a combination of heavy snow and strong winds approaching the strength of a hurricane. This winter wonderland in the heart of New York City is fun for some, but heading out for a selfie moment is not advised by the authorities. The blizzard conditions can be extremely dangerous. The snowscapes in New York are repeated across great swathes of the eastern United States. Boston Airport in Massachusetts is under a thick layer. Across the region, around 6,000 weekend flights have been cancelled. In many neighbourhoods, snowplows and salt spreaders have been working for hours to try to clear the roads. Many homes are without power.
When you get the prevailing northeast winds, it really impacts the coastal areas. They get that strong wind that comes off the ocean. So in addition to having to deal with, borderline historic amounts of snow, you get the winds that just push all of that water on shore.
Along the coast, battered by strong winds, flood warnings have been issued as the storm moves northwards. With frigid, potentially life-threatening temperatures overnight, officials are urging people to stay indoors until the storm passes.
This is what is the dangerousness we're talking about. We're expecting temperatures in the single digits tonight into tomorrow morning, and this is when frostbite kicks in. Look at how serious that can be. So we are trying to remind everybody, take this very seriously.
The worst of the snowfall is almost over, but the dangers posed by the extreme conditions will linger, with a huge clean-up operation likely to last several days. Peter Bowes, BBC News.
Well, one of the areas worst affected by the storm is Cape Cod in Massachusetts, where some meteorologists have been out measuring the weather. Well, if you can hear him, that is Matthew Capucci capturing the situation on the coast on Cape Cod earlier and being knocked over by the conditions. Later on, safe back at home, he told me how bad this storm is.
This storm is a pretty nasty one. It underwent something called bombogenesis, meaning it explosively intensified. Think of a storm as like a vacuum cleaner. It sucked in so much air very quickly. They went from virtually nothing on a weather map to a hurricane-force low-pressure system with 130 km/h wind gusts in just about 24 hours' time. Really nothing to that in just one day's time. Really impressive stuff. One of the most interesting elements of this, though, was the rapidity with which the snow came down, upwards of 10 centimeters per hour at times. Boston's Logan International Airport, where records date back to the 1800s, saw about 60 centimeters worth of snow. Their snowiest January day on record.
Now, Matthew, it's not unusual for us to have stories about bad weather at this time of the year, but that's because it's winter. But is this normal weather behaviour, would you say?
One thing we're seeing in recent years is less snow overall thanks to climate change, because obviously it's getting warmer outside many areas, like in Boston. But every so often, when we're still below freezing, that increase in temperature allows us to have a little bit more moisture in the air. So when we get the blockbuster events, we get a little bit more snow with them because all that extra moisture translates to more snowfall. Behind me, I'm right on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where the winds were crazy, hurricane force. But behind me, you see about, I want to say 50, almost 60 centimeters worth of snowfall. I've been here a very long time, and I can say this is probably our heaviest snow locally since 2005. And there were even a few reports of thunder snow.
Matthew, those of us, myself included, who tend to actually prefer winter weather might look in envy at all that snow and wind and cold that you've got, but actually this can be life-threatening, can't it?
Definitely. One of the more challenging elements of this particular storm was the fact that clouds just couldn't keep up. Ordinarily, when we see storms like this, we might get 5 to 7 centimeters per hour, but we had an extended period about 6 hours long where we had between 8 and 10 centimeters per hour. Snowplows were just not able to keep up. Road crews, no road crew in the world could handle this. So that means all the roadways are essentially shut down, many folks losing power, and the very cold conditions make it challenging, especially for elderly, vulnerable populations who can't really handle elements like this. So unfortunately, while the snow is pretty and while it's fun for kiddos, especially even folks like myself, this will cause a toll on a human standpoint and economically as well.
And Matthew, just briefly, do we have any idea when it might calm down?
Fortunately, right now, it's pulling away from the coast into the Gulf of Maine and eventually towards Canadian Maritime. So we're seeing the last of snow right now. Not sure how well the camera's picking it up. We have something called diamond dust. Temperatures are so cold outside, any of the remnant moisture in the air, it's coming down like confetti. So it's basically done. It's pulling along the New Hampshire seacoast and down East Maine. But for Boston proper, we are good to go. All done.